Good afternoon, my name is Randall Rader from Public Works Stormwater Drainage Division, and today we're going to be going through the CAT loader, model number 924G. We'll be talking about the basic operation and inspection points of this CAT loader. One of the first things you're going to check is your front bucket and your hose fittings and connections. So as I check my two main fittings, I just want to make sure that they're tight, make sure they're not leaking, no apparent fluid. I'm going to check my hoses. Also looking at the hoses for damage or leaks, looking for excessive dry rot or any type of bulges. Also following this down, checking all my fittings all the way up the boom as well. I'm also going to check my cylinders here, checking the fittings again, making sure there's no leaks, checking the cylinder itself, checking the rod, making sure there's no damage, no non-factory welds, no dings, dents to the rod or the cylinder itself. All right, moving back, we're gonna look at our main lift cylinder. Like the front, we're gonna check our points of connection, making sure both points of connection are greased, making sure the bolts and the cotter pins are all in place. Looking at our hoses for any apparent leaks or damage, dry rot. Also looking at our hose connections for any leaks as well. On the cylinder, we're looking at the rod, making sure there's no damage, no bends in it. And then we're checking the cylinder itself for any damage as well and any apparent fluid leaks. Moving back, talking about our tires. We're looking at our tires, making sure there's no foreign matter lodged in our tires, nails, screws, any pieces of metal. Checking the tire itself, both sidewalls and the top tread. We're looking at any excessive dry rot, any bulges or any damage. Also, we're going to check the PSI in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications on the tire. Coming to our rim, we're looking at our rim, any dings, dents, non-factory welds or cracks. And we're checking our lug nuts to make sure all the lug nuts are in place and bolts to ensure that the rim will actually stay on as well. All right, internally here, we're going to check first our drive shaft, checking our points of connection, making sure that they are connected, making sure our bolts and cotter pins are in. We're also checking the drive shaft itself, making sure there's no play in it. Looking at our points of connection, also making sure they're lubricated. We're also checking the shaft portion, making sure it's lubricated, not over lubricated or leaking in any way. We're also checking our turn points here, making sure our pins are in place. Looking at our lubrication again, making sure it's lubricated, not over lubricated in any way. All right, both on the bottom and the top portion as well. We also have our steering cylinders, both on this side and on the other side. We're going to check points of connection front, and then we would open up and check the rear. We're also looking for lubrication again, making sure it's lubricated, yet not over lubricated or leaking. We're checking our rods to make sure they're not bent or damaged in any way. Also, we're going to check our hydraulic hoses while we're here, looking for any apparent leaks or any damage, excessive dry rot, bulges, anything like that in any of our hydraulic hoses. Checking our steps, making sure that they're affixed to the machine. Checking our bolts, making sure our bolts are in place. Give them a good tug. Checking our tread, making sure there's sufficient tread and no oil, grease, or foreign matter. Also checking our top deck for the same thing, making sure there's no foreign matter, no grease, or anything that would make us lose traction. Moving up, we'll also check our handles, pulling on it, making sure there's no damage to it, and that it's positively mounted to the vehicle. All right, as we move to the back tire and on the other side, you're going to inspect these tires exactly as you would as the front tire. So now we're going to move back to the engine compartment. As you open it, make sure that your lock locks it in place so that the top will not fall down on you. Important on this side is obviously the battery switch. All right, you got to have the CAT 2-prong key. You need to make sure the battery is turned on, or obviously it's not going to start for you. All right, if it's towards the line, it means it's on. Straight up towards the circle means it's off. All right, also in the engine compartment, we're just checking our basic hoses, looking at our points of connection, making sure that there's no apparent leaks, looking at our hoses for damage, excessive dry rot, or any cracks. Also in this side, we have our engine oil fill point. That's in case you have to obviously add any type of oil or anything of that such. On the back part, we're checking our radiators, making sure there's no foreign matter lodged up or between the radiators that would cause the vehicle to overheat. And then lastly, we have our fuel tank fill portion right here. All right, on the back portion, once you have both your sides open, to check the back portion of the radiator, you flip your red switch down, give it a good little tug. All right, check your radiator again, make sure there's no foreign debris in there, any damage. And then on the other side, you can check your fan. Again, making sure there's nothing lodged in here, checking your fan blades for any apparent damage as well. Out on the back portion, we're checking our lights. Obviously our amber warning and turn signal lights and our red brake lights. Looking at them just like on a CDL vehicle, looking for any damage, cracks, or condensation inside. We're also checking proper color and clarity. Also looking at our warning placards, our keep back 100 feet, and our slow moving vehicle, making sure that the proper retroflective is on there and that it's also mounted to the vehicle. All right, on this side, much like the other, you're gonna check the rest of your radiator, making sure there's nothing stuck in there. Up top, we have our fluid level, our coolant level. We would check that to make sure it's at sufficient levels. Following our hoses and points of connection on the hose, we're making sure that there's no, again, any apparent leaks or any damage to the hose. Coming down, we're checking our belts, looking at our belts for proper tension. Also looking at any damage to the belts, excessive dry rots or cuts. And then we're gonna move on the back and check our wiring, looking for any frayed or burnt wires as well. All right, moving to the driver's side. First, we're gonna check our washer fluid and our fill point, looking at sufficient level. Also check our stairs on this side, just as we did on the other side. Moving down, check your fire extinguisher, make sure it is in the green safe operating range. Make sure it's positively mounted to the piece of equipment. All right, then lastly, right in front, we have our transmission fill port and our dipstick. So we would pull that out, check sufficient level, and ensure that the cap is placed back in and locked into place as well. All right, so back to the front portion. Some of the next things we're gonna check our lights. Checking our front headlights with our side markers, parking lights, looking at it to make sure that they're positively mounted to the vehicle. Also checking the safety cage around it as well. On the light, we're looking for any damage, any cracks, checking cleanliness and clarity, and making sure there's no condensation in the light. Also, up to the top, we also have our front headlights. Once we got up on the deck, we would also check those lights the same. Also checking our front and side and rear windows, looking on the windows for clarity. Also looking for any damage, cracks, dings, chips, anything in the windows as well. Lastly, we have our mirrors up top on both sides. We would also check our mirrors first to make sure that they're mounted to the piece of equipment safely, and we would also check to make sure that they're properly set and check in the clarity and cleanliness of the mirrors as well. All right, while you're ascending into this piece of equipment, you need to ensure safety, which is 3 points of connection. So either 2 hands and a foot or 2 feet and 1 hand at all time. All right, now internal of the cab of this loader, I'm gonna go through some basic controls. On the left side, obviously we have our parking lights and headlights. This would be off, parking lights only. Your front lower headlights that are encased. You're also adding now your top lights, and the very last setting adds your rear lights as well. You have your emergency safety beacon. Up is obviously on. And then you have 2 other switches, your auto shift and your transmission neutralizer override. Leave those as they're previously set. All right, moving up to the steering wheel, you have one of your transmission selectors, a selector switch if you would. You have up, which is forward, center is neutral, down, which is your reverse. And then on the side, you also have your first, second, third, and fourth gear. Fourth gear is gonna give you your fastest speed, less power, where first gear is gonna give you your most power, less speed. All right, on your dashboard, you obviously have your fluid level indicators and temperature indicators, as well as your speedometer and odometer as well. Moving to the right side, you have your turn signals. All right, down is actually to the right, up is to the left, and then to pull out is gonna be your 4-way flashers. Push it back in to disengage. Right side of the steering wheel, you have your windshield washer and windshield washer fluid, right, for the front and the rear windows. And on the right side is obviously your ignition. Your right side bucket controls, Your big control is going to control the movement of the bucket. Pull back is going to lift your bucket up. Push it down. Forward is going to control the bucket to move down. Left is going to control your pitch of your bucket down. Back to the right is going to control the pitch of your bucket up. The smaller handle on the right side is for the open and closing of the bucket. All right, you pull it back and it's going to open your bucket open. Push it forward and it'll close your bucket. We'll go through the operation of that from the outside here in a few minutes. Also on the side of your main bucket control, you have another transmission selector. If you're using the other, you need to ensure this one's in the center and neutral. If not, you can also flip this up to forward, down to reverse, or in the center and neutral. All right, there's a diagram right below the arm control here that also talks about the function of the bucket controls as well. All right, down on the side, you have a couple different control switches. Most of these will not be messed with or utilized during normal operation. So if these have to be messed with, please notify your supervisor and get further instruction on this. Your climate control switches are right behind it. You have your heat or AC, and then you have your fan speed, as well as your climate control for warm and cool. All right, internal, you also have two inside mirrors, which give you a better rearward view. Make sure those are properly set, and you're also checking cleanliness and clarity of those. On the bottom of your steering wheel, you have your switch that would adjust your steering wheel closer to you or farther away, and then your pedals at the bottom obviously is going to be your gas, and this is going to be your D-clutch and brake pedal. Your emergency brake is a handle lever over on your left hand side, obviously pulled up, the brake is engaged. Push the button in, push it down, your brake is disengaged. All right, now that I'm getting ready to operate the vehicle, first thing I'm going to do is obviously engage my seatbelt. I'm going to go ahead and start it up, and the first thing I'm going to do is check with my assistant or my spotter all my external lights. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is check my four-way flashers, so I'm going to pull my knob out towards me. All right, turn them off, I'm going to push it back in. I'm going to check my left and right. Pull the switch down is going to be my right turn signal. Pushing it up will be my left. And then I'm going to go through my headlights. All right. First switch is just my parking lights. Second is going to be my lower headlights. Third setting will be my lower and upper headlights. And then my final setting will be all the lights all the way around. I'm going to check my reverse lights. Alarm to ensure that it does work, as well as my brake lights and my four-way flashers from the rear, my right turn signal, and my left turn signal. All right, obviously here you can see the purpose of our inspection of our equipment. It was determined during our inspection that our parking and brake light was out on the left side. So before this would be able to be utilized, you would have to have this bulb changed in order to make this vehicle safe and road worthy. All right, now to go through the operation of the front bucket and lift arm. As I pull my main control knob back, you see the lift arm lifting up, which lifts my bucket. Obviously pushing it forward is going to control my bucket to go down. If I take my handle and move it to the left, which is towards my body, so to control the pitch of my bucket to roll backwards. To the right, away from my body, towards the passenger side, is going to control the pitch down. All right, the smaller handle, I pull it back towards me, it opens the bucket up. And then as I push it forward, it'll close the bucket back. This would be good in case you have to grab something or clamp onto some brush or debris to move it. All right, now my controls. If I'm gonna move forward, first thing I'm gonna do is place my foot on the brake, take the emergency brake off. All right, move my selector to forward, and then slightly apply the gas to move myself forward. All right, remember now this does have a center point steering function. All right, so you need to be aware of that it is very tricky and very matter of fact on your steering. Place my bucket back down, go into neutral, engage my brake, and that is going to conclude the internal operations. All right, that's going to conclude our walk around inspection and basic control operations of the Cat 924G loader. Of course, this is basic operations. If you're looking for more advanced, you're going to get with the supervisor for more advanced training and operation. Thank you and have a great day.